Hello, welcome to the ESS BIZTOOLS Starter Package overview. This is part of our Christmas promotional package for accountants, bookkeepers and business advisors. I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. I hope you're having a wonderful day. SMEs need financial commercial advisory services. I think they really do. I think one of the missing links in our profession is that we have over-concentrated on taxation returns. Now, I'll be the first to admit, having been a senior partner in an accounting firm, that the tax returns are very important. They're very important for the client, obviously for the Australian government, but they're also very important for accountancy firms because they generate a lot of work. But how much contribution do they make to your SME clients? Please think seriously about that as we work through this webinar today, because we're looking at developing strategies to assist your clients to survive 2025, which for some of your clients is going to be a jungle of false trials, false hope, running into dead ends, and really fighting for their survival. So SMEs need financial and commercial advisory services. That's what we really believe, because they need this to survive these difficult business conditions. High interest rates. The Reserve Bank yesterday decided to keep the cash rate at 4.35%. Some people speculate it might get a change in May. Others say it might go on for a lot longer. High inflation, business uncertainties, business failures are on the increase quite dramatically. Advisory services cover a range of financial and commercial activities that, unfortunately, in my experience, having been a partner in an accounting firm, chief financial officer and company secretary of a listed public company, I don't think we, as a profession, talk enough to our SME clients about the commercial reality of decisions and give them the sort of advice that if they were a bit bigger and they were large enough to employ a full-time accountant or chief financial officer, they'd be getting that advice. Primarily because the CEO would be asking questions. I worked with a CEO and he was a great guy, but continually bombarded me with what if type questions. Could we change this? Could we change that? What would be the costing on this? What's the equivalent of one potential order against another order? We're an international meat trading company, Australia's second largest. So we had decisions to make literally every day as to which markets to send product to, which orders to accept. And it got back to costings. And those costings were important because they were being relayed back to our livestock buyers out in the field, all over New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, buying cattle. What price could they offer? That had to come out of a costing department. How does your client that might have similar situation, might be running a very small meatworks, boning room type operation, have someone going out and buying cattle, might be the client themselves. How do they get answers to the various questions that are running through their head as they're doing the quick calculations to determine what to pay for some product? Obviously, it doesn't have to be cattle, could be anything, any type of product. Who does your client turn to for advice? Because that's the big hole, I think, that needs to be filled by professional accounting advice. So we start with initial training to familiarise your team with business advisory services. You might say, why do you do that? I know that there is a fundamental difference between preparing an annual set of accounts and a tax return and saying to the client, well, we'll see you next year. Now, these days, of course, we've got business activity statements. So you might see them every 3 months just to update their or review their business activity statement and then lodge it. But it's not like the sort of service you'd be offering if you were performing a virtual CFO service, because your firm would be in contact with your client at least weekly, sometimes daily. You'd be receiving the daily reports that I'm going to refer to shortly. Hopefully you don't have to activate them. Hopefully you can get someone in the client's organization to do that. But you should be monitoring that they're being prepared. You should be querying anything that looks strange, because that's what the whole purpose of daily and weekly reports are. To be the first signal that something's gone wrong or that something's been forgotten, or to answer the question, where are we going to get the money to pay those bills from? That might have come up in the daily report, which indicates the upcoming payment requirements for this week. So the training package, which is 13 modules, will take your team through the challenges and give them some background as to how advisory services, especially financial commercial advisory services, has emerged as a major issue for accountants to supply services to SME clients. We have the SME needs analysis, which is a series of dot points of issues that might be of concern to your client, discussing very briefly debtors' days outstanding. What I found in experience is that you may get a question back from your client saying, what is debtors' days outstanding? Or how do I calculate it? Or how do I compare to what the industry averages are? These are the items that you can then utilize to talk to your clients about. I think one of your key objectives should be to find out what is worrying your client when it comes to their business operations. What wakes them up at 3 a.m? Hopefully nothing. But many of them tell me they do wake up early in the morning because they're worried about various aspects of their business. And as a subscriber to the starter package, you would have 10 training sessions per annum, 45 to 60 minutes, in a group basis with our other starter package subscribers. You will receive a link to the video recording of the training session. You'll hear the questions being asked by other firms, and they will hear your questions. And out of all that, hopefully, there will be some group learning or group development of practice ideas. Because we learn also by conducting those training sessions, because I become aware of the issues as you see them or as your team see them. That relates, of course, to the questions that will be asked. And if I discover that there's gaps in our material that we're supplying, we will fix them for the betterment of all of our subscribers. The next big thing to look at is promotional activities, because your clients have grown up used to accountants basically supplying a tax service. They probably know deep down they need advice from someone else, but they're a bit unsure as to who to go to. They don't really know whether your firm can supply it, because you never talk to them about budgets and cash flows and board of directors processes, corporate governance, debtors management. Basically, they will tell me that all that their accountants talk to them about is taxation matters. Unfortunately, taxation matters don't help them run a better business. Doesn't highlight where there's been deviations from the set targets of gross profit percentages or anything else. So to try to keep your clients informed, engaged in the process, we produce a Business Plus newsletter each month, which has 4 to 6 articles per month, looking at various aspects of an SME running a business. And we try to cover the wide scene that relates to small, medium enterprises. You got startups, you got people that have been operating for 6 to 12 months. You got people who are thinking about buying another business. You got people who are planning to sell their business. You got people who are thinking of succession issues. You got people who started undertaking research and development. You got others who have undertaken research and development and now thinking of a major business activity. They want to scale up and grow. And to do that, they need funds. And they are telling you they've got no spare funds. They've got no spare capital. You could then discuss with them the opportunities that today's SMEs have of being able to raise capital. For 40-odd years, it was the only way an SME could raise capital was around Section 708 of the Corporations Act. But that was not a very flexible section. It worked, but it was very narrow. There could be no promotion, no marketing. You had to only talk to people who already knew something about your business. And you could only invite 20 of them to subscribe to shares in the year, in any case. And the maximum capital that could be raised was $2 million. So there were restraints. Now we've got early stage innovation company, which includes an incentive to the new investors. The only time it's happened in Australian history, as far as I can work out. And we've got crowdsourced funding equity raising. Over $440 million has been raised by crowdsourced funding equity raising. And I believe that is only scratching the surface. There's a lot more could be done because the accountancy industry does not appear to have embraced the concept of talking about crowdsourced funding equity raising, encouraging your clients to think about it when they need additional funding for their business, educating them on the way companies operate. They're issuing shares, they're getting the cash, there's no interest to be paid, there's no repayments required. Hopefully your client's going to be able to use that money to grow the business for the benefit of the new shareholders and obviously for the benefit of your client and whoever else were the original shareholders. Their business will grow if it's managed right. We have client mentoring and coaching modules, pre-prepared, ready for you to use. That you can look at the material and present your own to a group of clients or to one client. And we have client seminars, pre-prepared, 12 of them that you can use. Read the material, do some practice runs using Zoom, and start the presentations. You might be quite amazed at the reaction you will get from the marketplace. And we also produce papers and articles. As a starter package subscriber, you would have access to 343 of these papers that cover about 60 different subject headings. You can badge these papers and send them to your clients and prospects. You might have been talking to a client about research and development, and you could send them a pre-prepared paper that would take you hours to sit down and write yourself. So you then have to send the client a invoice for $500, $600. This way, you can just send them the paper. You can charge them for it if you wish, but I don't think you'd be charging $500, $600 for it. So the papers can be your conduit to your client to continually be emphasizing to them that you are their trusted advisor in a wide range of financial and commercial matters, as well as income tax. Each week you will receive the grant update report, which is normally prepared on a Monday or Tuesday. It's a summary of what's happened in the previous week from the Australian government, state and territory governments on grants for SMEs. There's hundreds of them. Some SMEs seem to secure a large number of grants because they're proactive or their accountants are proactive in supplying the service. The trades charge out rate calculator. In my experience, I think every accountant and bookkeeper in Australia has got some tradie clients. How do they set their charge out rates? Have you ever asked them? Or are you just dealing with the end result? Pardon me. The financial accounts that are prepared. But the assistance your client needs is long before that annual financial accounts. How do they calculate their charge out rate? Whether it's $80 an hour or $180 an hour, it doesn't really matter. How do they calculate it? What were they trying to achieve in that calculation? Obviously, they need to cover the labour on costs, but you'll be surprised how many of them do not include labour on costs, or they only include part of them. They need to include their basic overhead expenses. What do they do on productivity? Are they measuring the productivity? Are they able to see how it's performed one week to the next and to make changes? And are they trying to ensure that their charge out rates, their productivity, when it's all put together, will generate their targeted profit? We have a package which will facilitate that, most definitely facilitates that process. And some of our existing clients have really used that package as their promotional tool to gather hundreds of tradie type clients into their businesses. The professional service firm's charge out rate calculator is very similar to the tradies. And professional service firms covers a wide range of people. Lawyers, architects, engineers, town planners, computer programmers, all with a common purpose of selling their time or their team members' time. And we have the selling retail price calculations, setting retail price calculations, my apologies. Have you ever sat down and advised your retail clients as to how they might organise their plan for their business? Because they've normally got stock that fits all four of the main stock parameters, stars. That's high volume and high markup. That's what everyone dreams of selling. Unfortunately, they also need cash cows. Cash cows are also high volume, but very low margins because they're very popular. Everyone has them. Then we've got problem lines. That's normally last year's fashions. Ladies, we were in yellow last year. This year, they're wearing bright red. No matter how good that merchandise from last year is, you're not going to get the premium price for it this year. So what do you do with it? And then we got the the nasties, the stock that no one wants to own up that they ordered. And incidentally, be careful of computer automatic reorder systems. I've seen some real disasters created there, where someone worked very hard to finally clear some very bad stock, couldn't sell it no matter how much they discounted it. And then a couple of weeks later, a new order turns up. I was in one of my clients who was a major jewelry chain and heard the explosion outside, and I walked out to see what was going on. And one of the store managers, who was a mate of mine, I said, "What's going on, Jim?" And he said, "I have worked and worked and worked for 18 months to clear these vases." They were some big vase. And he said, "We finally got rid of them. In fact, we went out for drinks that evening, the team from the store, to celebrate. We finally got rid of these 30 huge vases." And he said, "Now there's another order here." And when we inquired what had happened, there'd been a systems reorder go through on the computer. So you need to be careful about that. So we've got a retail price calculator, which will help you deliver these services. The next area to look at is buying a business. Yes, there's still plenty of people buying businesses around Australia, and they need assistance. Research and development introduction is a very important area for accountants and bookkeepers supplying advisory services, financial and commercial services, in particular to SME clients, because many of them look to undertake research and development. So what we've developed into our system is that if you get an inquiry from a client about research and development, you can immediately flick onto your computer and start talking to them about it and advising them that they need to be a company. They need to expend at least $20,000 on legitimate research and development activities within the financial year to be able to claim the research and development rebate. They need to understand that there's record keeping involved. You can assist them, but as an internal auditor type role, not as the scientist undertaking the research and development activities. That's your client's area. They either undertake it themselves and complete the various forms that you will have at your fingertips to help them if you subscribe for our full package. But initially, you're able to answer their questions, to offer them full advisory services. Debtors management. It's a crucial area for SMEs to understand. And really, the problems in debtors management have really been brought to the surface recently from an article that was published in the Financial Review, written by Paul Robson, the CEO of MYOB. Mr. Robson indicated that MYOB had undertaken research with 1,000 of their clients, ranging from 1 employee through to 200 employees, and tried to understand what was their issues in running a business. And he highlighted that they had great difficulties in understanding fiscal management, and in particular, he centered on debtors. There's no rules that say that a business must offer credit to any customer. Obviously, SMEs can decline it, but obviously some of the people who were being interviewed by MYOB didn't understand that. They didn't have a proper debtor system, which I think incorporates at least an application for credit. They detail who they are, who they've currently been dealing with, who are their referees. And they understand the calculation of debtors' days outstanding. They understand the necessity to place the due date for payment on the tax invoice. They understand the necessity to make sure that any additional information that their customer has requested be supplied with the tax invoice is supplied. Now, this could be weighbridge certificates, health certificates, or all sorts of other things. But if their customer is saying we require that to make a payment to you, then they need to supply. And that one of the other big problems I found with SMEs and debtors is not abiding by their customers' cut-off requests. So if the customer said, we require tax invoices no later than the 8th day of the following month, if we're going to process it in that month, that has to be abided by. Otherwise, it just gets pushed into a bundle for the next month. And then if there's a query on the invoice, that's another month before it gets settled. I was conducting a workshop for Oz Industry on corporate governance issues in a Queensland mining rural environment a couple of years ago. And we were looking at debtors' responsibilities and debtors management as part of the corporate governance overview. And one of the attendees asked me, well, what is a reasonable debtors days outstanding? I said, well, what's your firms? There were 40 odd people in the room, all from running their own businesses or office managers type people of running businesses. And I said, well, what's your debtors days outstanding? She said, I don't know. She said, how do you calculate it? And I said, have you got an accountant? Oh, yeah, but the accountant is located in another city, and they never asked us about debtors days outstanding. They don't talk to us about any of that sort of stuff. All they're interested in doing is preparing the income tax return. So I was looking at the back of the room and I could see the caterers were getting morning tea ready. So I thought, now's a good enough time to have a break. We're going to have morning tea. And I went up to this lady and I started talking to her. I said, well, you want to give me some of the figures and I'll calculate what your debtors days outstanding are. She said, oh, can you do that? I said, yes. What's your debtors balance? What's your turnover? 102 days outstanding was the debtors. And I looked at it and I wrote the figure down and showed her. And she said, is that high? I said, very high. I said, who owns this business? She said, my father. I said, he got some cash flow problems? Oh, yeah, he's often arguing with the bank manager who's saying we need to do things differently. I said, well, you need to get your debtors down because that's affecting your business. That's a lot of money. She said, what should it be? I said, well, the normal term is 30 days, but given the way everyone's trading at present, perhaps 45 days, but not 102 days. This is the problem. This firm had an $8 million turnover, employed about 20 people. It had an accountant that ran a very big practice. I knew the accountant. But her claim was the accountant never talked to her about debtors days outstanding, never raised any question about debtors. And later on, I did meet her father because I undertook some work, including a review of their debtors, which we got back down to about 50 odd days and gave them a lot more cash into their business. And a lot of it was making sure they fulfilled whatever it was, the 8, 9 or 10 days, which is the normal ones, after the end of the month, that everything was submitted to the customer for payment. The debtors systems manual, we've developed one at ESS BIZTOOLS. All you've got to do is go through and do a review of your client's business, might take about an hour, and perhaps edit some of the material. What we might have called it a cash receipts book. Your client might call it a green book, because I've struck that over the years. People have color-coded systems in their firms, and no one knows the original generic name. So make sure you've got that right so you can personalize it, so that the person who's got the responsibilities of debtors understands what debtors days outstanding means, understands how it's calculated, understands why some people get very excited about it, like bank managers and outside consultants like me coming in and saying, gee, that's too high. We then move on, selling a business. We have a complete product package to help you to assist your client to get the business ready for sale. Now, I imagine selling a business at present is fairly difficult. There's a lot of worries about running a business. There's businesses failing. So to sell a business, you need to go through the detailed checklists that we have prepared, or a checklist, to make sure that your client has got themselves in the best possible situation. And one of the questions could be, is this the ideal time to sell your business? Would it be better to get your house in order over the next 2 years and then try to sell it? And hopefully the economy's improved a bit more by then. Food for thought. Succession planning. Succession planning is not just looking at the situation of the managing director or the owner. It is, in my opinion, everyone in the organisation. Because every time you train someone up a bit more, they can move up a step in the organisation. I believe that in most cases, it is best to develop your own team and promote from within, as long as they're capable of doing the job. Every so often, you do need to bring in outsiders. But if you're continually bringing in outside people into an organisation, your client's going to be spending a lot of money on recruitment. They're not all going to work out. Some will leave within the first 4 or 5 weeks, and then you have to go through the process all over again. So succession planning within a business is important. We've developed the full product package, which takes you through this overall process. The business evaluation workshop is looking at additional corporate services, executive services that you could provide. I wrote this package because one of our subscribers rang me and said, my client wants me to go on their board of directors and be like an executive director. What do I have to do? I said, well, you better read the corporate governance material that's in ESS BIZTOOLS first, so that you clearly understand and you clearly practice sound directorship activities. But then we wrote a few other things, which is looking at what an executive director's role is. I think it's a link between being the virtual chief financial officer, so having a strong awareness of the business, its internal control systems, the accuracy of the financial data that's been prepared, the key performance indicators, and the business metrics, very important. And an understanding of the vision of the CEO. Where's the business headed? What is he or she trying to achieve over the next 3 to 5 years? And how can you help them in that? Some of that will probably involve having to raise capital. So what sort of initial discussions should be taking place? What sort of position is the company going to be in when there's an attempt to raise capital? Food for thought. And then we go to the introduction of the 52-week business enhancement system. I spoke at the beginning about this, but this is very important because this is the financial system that unfortunately is missing in many SMEs, because there's been no accounting discipline there to say this is how the system has to operate. I think this is the biggest challenge confronting accountants when it comes to dealing with the SME marketplace. So please replay the material we've said. The 52-week business system is built around the daily, weekly production report and profitability report, and then the monthly financial accounts, comparison to budget, report, and then the system commences again. The due diligence review that I spoke about earlier, that knowing 1 inch wide but a mile deep rather than a mile wide and only an inch deep, is crucial for delivering services to SMEs on a broader range than just taxation. So the broader range is obviously financial and commercial. You look at the matters we're going through that in this summary on the starter package, they all relate to financial or commercial matters. Who does your client go to at present to get advice on those areas? Please think about that quite seriously. Who do they go to? Do you think it's only the CEOs of listed public companies that ask their chief financial officer what I called what-if questions literally every day? Even when the CEO was supposed to be on holidays, I would still get messages sent through asking about various aspects. They were sent by telexes in those days too. I'm going back a few years. Who answers those types of questions with your SME clients? I'll self-answer my question. Probably no one, because they've got no one to ask. And they don't ask you because they don't think it's part of the arrangement, because they think the arrangement with you is primarily for taxation advice. Taxation advice does not help your clients run their businesses. All it is helping is to supply information to the Australian Taxation Office so that the amount of taxation that your client owes can be assessed. And that's the way public companies treat it. Taxation is just a side issue over there that's got to be done. In the meantime, the leadership team, the CEO, and the other executive directors need to know how they are performing today and yesterday, last week, and going forward. What's our expectations? When are we going to have cash flow difficulties? Do we need to change our investment in stock? Or can we get some major debtors to pay? Or are we going to have to go out and try to raise some additional funds from our bank? If so, where's the security coming from? Or should we be looking to raise capital as a crowdsourced funding equity raising, which is possible if the company's turnover's under $25 million Australian on an international basis? We've talked about business planning. It's very important. It should be a team event. The productive matters relative to predictive accounting reports, budgets, key drivers, cash flow forecast, projected balance sheet, source and application of funds projection, giving you the ability to be the storyteller, to sit down and convey to the leadership team, this is what your company will look like in 3 years' time. Are you happy with that picture? To achieve that, we've got to monitor these targets daily, weekly, monthly. Make sure those targets are conformed with. And if changes are necessary, we make some fine-tuning. If we find that the productivity of individual team members is not as high as we budgeted, redo it. Reset the budget, and then try to be able to get that extra charge out rate per hour in the marketplace. Obviously, it's very difficult if quotes have already gone in. You're caught there. And there could be competitors in the marketplace that are offering what your client might consider as silly prices. So they're forcing the market down. But at least your client's got an awareness. This shouldn't be a big mystery that they really don't know what's going on. It should be conveyed to them, at least on a weekly and a monthly basis. This is your position. What can we do about it? So that's the daily reports. And then we've talked about the weekly performance and profitability reports, the monthly financial accounts, comparison to budget, key performance indicators and business metrics are all covered in the starter package so that you can start supplying these services to assist your clients to succeed in their business operations. So do you have any questions on any aspect of the material that's covered in the starter package that I've overviewed today? If so, please send me an email, peter@ESSBIZTOOLS.com.au, or telephone 0747241118. Now, your investment in our Christmas promotional special, the starter package comes with a 50% discount. So for 12 months, 24/7 access, you will be charged $990, including GST. $990. You should be able to get a return on investment of that expenditure. Or we are giving you the opportunity to try us out for 3 months. And that will cost $286, including GST. And obviously, we're going to do everything we can to encourage you to be using the system to generate activity with your clients so that you renew your subscription for the remainder 9 months. And if you do that, we will honour the offer we're making at present, that it's $990, including GST, for the 12 months. We'll calculate what the next 9 months is going to cost based on that calculation. And this special offer is open under the 23rd of December 2024. So you've got plenty of time. Let us know by the 23rd of December. We will ensure that your subscription's processed on the Christmas Eve, and we'll send you back the details. Then if you want to spend some time on the Christmas New Year period having a look at our system in detail as a subscriber, you can do so. Are you ready to implement advisory services to help your clients meet the challenges that are in the marketplace at present? If so, please go to our website, www.ESSBIZTOOLS.com.au, click on packages and pricing, click on the starter package, and then click on whether you want the 12 months 50% discount package or the 3 months special package offer. Your choice, you decide which one you want. So we look forward to you joining the ESS BIZTOOLS community. We look forward to your team members participating in the training programs that we offer as part of this promotion, which we're calling BizAid by ESS BIZTOOLS, because that's the reason we've discounted our products, to give you products that you can immediately utilize to help your clients who all the reports indicate need assistance. You can offer it to them now. You can earn income now to show you that these systems do work. Stay safe. Have a great day. And thank you for participating in this webinar. And I look forward to hearing from you. And if I don't talk to you again, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone associated with your firm. Thank you. Goodbye.